Ships are the workhorses of global trade. They carry over 80% of the world's cargo. From raw materials to finished goods, these massive vessels transport everything. Oil, gas, minerals, food, electronics, and consumer goods all rely on maritime shipping. This intricate network connects producers and consumers across vast distances. The shipping industry is a complex system. It involves millions of people and trillions of dollars. Cargo ships, tankers, and container ships form the backbone of this system. They navigate intricate shipping lanes and adhere to international regulations. Their continuous operation is essential for the smooth functioning of the global economy. Imagine a day when all ships simply stop moving. Cargo ships would be stranded at sea, ports would become congested with unloaded containers, the flow of goods would come to a standstill. Imagine the shelves of grocery stores slowly emptying. The immediate impact would be most severe on island nations. They rely heavily on ships for essential supplies. Food shortages would quickly become a reality. Fuel for transportation and electricity generation would dwindle. The lack of access to medical supplies would create a health crisis. The economic consequences of halted shipping would be catastrophic. Global trade would come to a standstill. Businesses reliant on imports and exports would face collapse. Manufacturing industries would grind to a halt without raw materials. The financial markets would plunge into chaos. The interconnectedness of the global economy would amplify the crisis. The ripple effects of disrupted supply chains would be felt worldwide. Even countries with domestic production capabilities would suffer. The lack of access to specialized components and materials would disrupt their industries. Section 5. A breath of fresh air. Environmental consequences. The halt in shipping activities would have both positive and negative environmental consequences. On the one hand, the reduction in ship emissions would lead to cleaner air and water. Noise pollution in the oceans would decrease, benefiting marine life. On the other hand, the sudden need to find alternative transportation methods would lead to increased reliance on air freight and land-based transportation. These modes of transport have a higher carbon footprint, potentially offsetting the initial environmental benefits. Section 6. Rising tides of tension, geopolitical impacts. The sudden disruption of global trade would likely lead to geopolitical tensions. Countries heavily reliant on imports for essential resources might resort to desperate measures to secure their supplies. Disputes over fishing rights and access to shipping lanes could escalate into conflicts. The unequal distribution of resources and manufacturing capabilities would exacerbate existing inequalities. Developed nations with diversified economies would be better positioned to weather the crisis. While developing nations heavily reliant on a few export commodities would face severe economic and social upheaval. Section 7. Adapting to a new reality, human resilience. In the face of such adversity, humanity would be forced to adapt. Local production and consumption would become essential. Governments and communities would need to work together to ensure the equitable distribution of essential resources. Innovation and ingenuity would be crucial for developing sustainable solutions. The crisis would likely spark a resurgence in traditional farming practices and local craftsmanship. The reliance on technology and global supply chains would diminish. People would rediscover the importance of self-sufficiency and community resilience. Section 8. Charting a new course, long-term solutions. Addressing the root cause of the shipping standstill would be paramount. If the stoppage were due to a technological failure, finding a solution would be a top priority. If the cause were environmental or geopolitical, addressing those issues would be crucial for restarting global trade. In the long term, the world might see a shift towards more sustainable and resilient forms of trade. This could involve investing in alternative shipping technologies, such as autonomous ships or wind-powered cargo vessels. It could also mean diversifying supply chains and reducing reliance on long-distance transportation. Section 9. Conclusion. A sea of change. The hypothetical scenario of all ships stopping is a stark reminder of our interconnectedness and our dependence on maritime trade. It highlights the fragility of our globalized world and the potential consequences of disruptions to this intricate system. While the likelihood of such an event is low, the lessons learned from this thought experiment are invaluable. By understanding the potential impacts of a shipping standstill, we can better prepare for future challenges. We can invest in more resilient infrastructure, diversify our economies, and reduce our impact on the environment. This hypothetical scenario serves as a call to action for building a more sustainable and equitable world.